welcome everyone to another session of the MS Excel Toronto Meetup group. It's April 17th in Toronto and around the world. Well, Australia may be ahead of us already. And we have Michael Olafusi today with us. He will be talking about interactive dashboards using Microsoft 365, which gives us more features and functionality than the previous versions that are just standalone versions. Anyway, Michael will talk about that. We will get to Michael in just a minute. I will introduce him in just a minute. In the meantime, let me just run through a couple of announcements. Yeah, just a reminder that if you find any difficulties with the chat, getting out of the meeting and joining again usually helps. And our session is being recorded so that other people can watch it later, and will be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you don't find comfortable with your image, your participation in any means being recorded, I request you to disconnect, and then you can catch up with the recording later. Our next session will be in May 15th. We will be talking about an add-in that has been referred a few times. Some people have asked me to talk about it, and I do use one of the three portions that this add-in has. So this add-in is developed by Microsoft. So Chris Gross is part of the Microsoft Excel team, and he will be presenting the next month, and will show us that add-in, Excel Labs. You can find it on the Microsoft Store. Just go to Home and then I think insert add-ins or something like that, and look for Excel Labs. This add-in has multiple functionalities. One is related to artificial intelligence, so you can connect it with your account, OpenAI account, and from there you can inquire ChatGPT directly out of Excel. The other portion is related to Python, and the other third portion it's the one I use more regularly, is a way to edit formulas and to debug formulas. When we have long formulas that the formula bar in Excel becomes very restrictive, this add-in is very helpful for that. So if you are interested in any of these sections, feel free to join us next month. I would like to mention Women in Excel. In fact, I will let Grania talk about that. This is a group on LinkedIn dedicated to women in Excel, like the name says, and Grania will talk about it in case you want to join us.
Yes, Women in Excel was a group that started in the networking area of the Global Excel Summit just this last February, and we noticed that there was a lot of women attending in person, but proportionately there was a lot fewer women presenting. So we thought we wanted to give women a place where they could feel safe to learn to grow in their development in Excel, where they could say, I know how to do this, or I've just discovered how to do that, or celebrate when someone writes a book or post something on LinkedIn that's particularly interesting, or whatever it is. So we're using this as a way for women to support each other. So if you would like to join this community, ladies, then I put a link in the chat to this LinkedIn group. It's just for ladies at the moment, and we may change that in the future, but in the moment it's just for ladies. So we would love to have any woman that feels that they would like to join us is more than welcome, and please share it with your friends. So if you feel so inclined, join us.
We are about over 75 members now, right?
We hit 85 today.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yes, it's quite exciting.
Great. So a novelty that has been quite successful, quite how can I say, that has had a lot of great feedback online, is the new book about the M language in Power Query, the definitive guide to Power Query by Melissa the court, who has already presented to this meetup group. Rick de Groot and Gregory Deckler, they wrote a book. It's like a Bible. So anyone who is using Power Query and got to that stage where the user interface is not enough anymore for certain problems, and you feel the need of using the M code, tweaking the M code, but sometimes you don't know exactly what to do. Sometimes you don't know exactly which functions or the parameters about the functions. Anyways, this explains everything, and it can be a very helpful tool for you. So feel free to take a picture there. I will send this information. These slides will be sent with the email that we usually send a few days after the session, together with the link for the video recording. So you will have that information there. And we are thinking of finding a way to bring one of the authors to our group. Just a second here. Okay. Next. Just a couple of resources that you can use. Monthly, I send out a newsletter. Feel free to subscribe if you are interested in learning what's new in Excel. Every month there's improvements, new features in Excel, sometimes in Excel Online, sometimes in Excel Desktop, or both. So if you are interested in learning about that and staying on top of also different book releases, events, Excel events, I put in everything that I find about Excel in that newsletter. It goes out about once a month. Feel free to subscribe. Okay, and again, this slide will be available for you. We also have our YouTube channel with the recordings of all the sessions since we started running these sessions online back in 2020. And my YouTube channel has a bunch of resources as well. I do have a training program where I teach the techniques I've developed over the years to help automate Excel reports or Excel reporting procedures. If you are interested in learning more how to put together different features and tools like Power Query to bring in the data, but then maybe other different features to organize your data and build your reports, and then maybe some VBA or other tools to export your final reports depending on the output that you need. This is what my course is about. Feel free to check it out there. And another new book that I left to the end, I left the book, this other second book, to the end because Michael Olafusi, our speaker today, is the author. It's Building Interactive Dashboards in Microsoft 365 Excel, harness the new features and formula in Microsoft 365 Excel to create dynamic automated dashboards. So that's what we are learning about and very excited about it. I do love all the new functionality, the functionality and the power that we get from the new functions in the modern Excel and other features. So Michael will tell us all about that. This is Michael's contact information. Feel free to connect with him. I'm going to read just what we have about our speaker, Michael Olafusi, on our page. Michael Olafusi is the founder of the MHS Analytics, Inc., Canada, and your biz edge. I'm sorry, limited. I hope I'm spelling it, but you, Michael,
tried.
correct me. Yeah,
No problem.
you
You're close. It's your
yeah.
biz edge.
Yes, your biz edge. Now I understand what your biz edge. Okay, it makes sense now. In Nigeria, from Mike, where Michael came from, but now I have the pleasure to call him my neighbor because Michael now is living in Canada in my city in Mississauga, so or close to Mississauga. In this session, no, not here. He consults full-time for different clients across the globe on Power BI, Excel, financial modeling, and data engineering projects. He enjoys traveling and cycling. And I want to add to this that Michael is one of the most kind and generous people that I know. He runs another meetup group that in fact I should have, let me stop sharing my screen here because I think I missed one slide. Michael runs another meetup group where in Nigeria and runs sometimes once or he runs 1 or 2 times per week sessions on that meetup group. So he has been given a lot of has been giving a lot of value to the community in multiple ways. He is also one of the people I know with more certifications in all kinds of different Microsoft technologies. So he is very knowledgeable in terms not only Excel, but Power Platform in general, and Azure and all that good stuff that I don't even know. Yeah, so Michael is the man. Michael is very knowledgeable for sure. Let me just go back here one slide because I forgot it was hidden and it didn't show on my presentation, just in case you guys want to take a picture and take advantage of other sessions that happen around the globe in other meetup groups. So feel free to check those meetup groups because there's tremendous value every month. I was going to see if there's okay, yeah.
That's March. This is now April. Is that the right?
Is March? Oh, okay. So my bad.
We've missed all of those.
There was a reason.
Sorry.
There was a reason for me to not to have the slide hidden. If I have the April slide, I will include it in our session. I may have either I did not receive it or I messed up and put up the wrong one. Okay, so enough talking. Michael, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and congratulations on your new book. It must be exciting to have a book out there and having people learning from that type of resource, a different resource from the other ones you've built. Congratulations on that. We wish you all the success and the stage is yours. If I missed something or if you want to correct me on something, please feel free to do so.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Do you think it's okay for me to share screen now?
Absolutely. Yes, please.
All right. So thank you. Thank you, Celia. Thank you, Granny, for the opportunity. It's a privilege to, I think I've been here once before, but
yes,
it's always a big deal to be here because I think this is where all the grandmasters show up. And like, if you look at the list of all the people who presented here, who consistently present here, we all know that it's always an honor to be in the league of the big names. So do you see my screen? Is it visible? All right, great. Okay, so thank you to everyone who is in, and I will talk a bit about the structure I originally planned. And if, you know, as it is with life, things might, I want it to be interactive. So as we are interactive, I might tweak it a bit, but I want you to know that my intention is to make these a bit of both ways. You can influence the delivery of the session. Yes, the title of the session is Building Interactive Dashboards in Microsoft Excel. Microsoft 365 Excel, which is also the title of the book I recently published. But my pattern of delivery for this session is to pick out important things, do a bit of demo, maybe quote some things that are best quoted from the book because I had to do a lot of research. And that's the beauty of writing a book. You don't just depend on what you think you know, you go research so that someone is not going to point out that you made an easy to fix error, and then the publisher needs to do a lot of things to fix it. So in short, in summary, ask me questions. I'm going to be watching the chat, and I'm going to try to do demos. If you have questions, ask. I will ask questions too, and you should answer. And Pact, the publisher of the book, they've been generous enough to say, oh, they are willing to give 3 attendees the book. So I suspect it might be e-copy, but you never can tell. They didn't tell me specifically whether e-copy or physical. So maybe I'll leave that to them. But at least I'm going to make sure that people who are active and who help to make this interactive, I try to pick from that pool of attendees. Okay. My name is Michael. I'm not going to introduce myself more because I think you should be tired of hearing about me by now, and we should just go straight into what it is. So luckily, Celia has presented this part of my slide for me. Okay. I'll just say, yes, I'm an author now. Actually, I've written 3 other books, but this is the first one I'm not self-publishing. So I think I can say, yes, I'm an author now. The other ones I self-published, and it's just like they say, you you always feel it's good because you did it yourself. Then I also consult, and I'm a trainer. And the cap I'm planning to wear today is the cap of a trainer. It's just coincidence that I'm going to talk about a book I authored, but I want to take the hat of a trainer to show us something I think you'll find valuable. Hopefully you didn't know before today's session. So the book has got 12 chapters, right? And the ones that I've highlighted in green are what I felt, okay, if I try to talk through all of them and pick out all the values in all of them, you might not get something very in-depth. So I decided I'm going to cherry pick the ones I know are not too common, or where I felt I was saying something really important. And that's the chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and also a demo that will combine 10 and 11. So I hope it works. Okay, so let's start with chapter 1 because that's where I feel. In fact, the title of the book, it took a bit of back and forth with the publisher because originally they were of the opinion that it should be, they researched and found that the most used version of Excel, well, maybe most used and increasing in value in percentage of people using it was it Excel 2019? So I had to say, oh no, we should not write about Excel 2019. We should let people know that there's something much more important that they should be aware of, and I believe it should be Microsoft Excel. I mean Microsoft 365 Excel, and I had to try to convince them, and they were like, yes. So I made some case for it, and I'm going to try to explain to you that also here. Then I'm going to also talk about common dashboards in large companies. So I usually do most of my trainings for clients in Africa, my consultings for clients in North America and Europe. So it's a bit tricky when I'm now switching out to train people who are largely not from Africa. But I'll tell you, typically, the assumption we'll make, even the participants, the assumption they always sit with is that they don't want you to assume they know all of what you are telling them, even when they know. But they feel since they're already there, they want you to say it, teach me as if I'm in kindergarten. But not that you now take too much time, but don't assume I know. And so what that has meant for me in my training methodology is to not make any assumptions, present all the facts I needed to be aware of. If you know it, then good. If you don't know it, then I'll just maybe try to balance and not talk too much about it so that I don't bore those who already know. So that's the approach I took with chapter 2 to say all large companies typically, I would show you the slide, they've got some consistent needs, some needs that are across all of them. And if you call yourself someone good at creating dashboards and data analysis, then you want to be able to do these, I call them 5 common dashboards. So I'm going to talk about that too. And I've got some slides about that. Then importance of connecting directly to primary data sources. Okay. Then Power Query, the ultimate. That's Celia's favorite tool in Excel, actually. So I'm going to also do some demos here. So that's a good place to do a demo. Then 10 and 11, I will do demo. If you think there's something you want me to talk about that is not in the green highlighted portion, please put in the chat. I am happy to squeeze in some time for them. But I've shown you everything, and I've highlighted the ones that I've made you see the ones I've created my slides around, and my demo files too, not just the slide. Okay, so this one I did a complete grab from the book because I took a lot of time to craft it, these sentences. I'm like, okay, I tried to summarize, but I'm like, no, the summary is not going to work as well as you showing you, but I'll talk out the summary. So a lot of people used to think about, in fact, let me take this away. What do you think is the difference between a dashboard and a report? I'm interested to see your answers in the chat. Anyone wants to give it a shot? What for you is a difference, between a dashboard and a report? Okay, right. By the way, if you're interested in a copy of the book, these are the parameters I will use to nominate maybe one or two people. Then I'll use, okay. Dashboard is interactive. Okay. Okay, I see also Celia has mentioned dashboard tends to have visual elements. Pietro, report is static, dashboard is interactive. A report feels more static to me, whereas a dashboard is more dynamic and used more often. Dashboard is an analytical representation. This is interactive visual presentation. I like all the answers I'm getting, so I'm going to share my own opinion too, right? So yeah, I see more are coming dashboards, but I'm beginning to see some common thread in all our answers. So, and interestingly, my answer too is slightly, the way you've worded yours. So you can say I say visual representations, but I decided to come at it from when looking at all the works I've had to do for clients, building. Some will say they need dashboards for this, for that. Some people will say they need reports. Then also I have had to be in position where I am the one trying to get other people to do things, right? And the truth is that there are three ways you can easily try to delineate all the requests that come from decision makers or that you face as a data analyst in a company. And you'll find out that when you are doing things that will support decision makers, it tilts more to dashboards. They will want that interactivity. They want to get the message really quick, so you have to use visual representations. They are very clear on the metrics they want. You want to support some business decisions. So you begin to cherry pick. You will not take all of what is possible to take from the underlying data. You begin to prioritize what's going to drive a decision, going to surface insights, and it's going to be heavily visually, oriented. So, but then again, we've got always people who, for a long while, have said, if you do a dashboard, it must fit within a screen. And then we've got softwares, even when Power BI came up, I think they tried to also make it like that because Power BI started like four apps within Excel. It was like Power Query, Power View, Power Map, and Power Query, Power Pivot, Power View, and Power Map. Yes. So it started like Hardings, and I remember that the first set of client I trained, we had to install them as Hardings in Excel, and Microsoft used to send these demo files. I kind of love those demo files. It was the clearest way to show, in a very business already representing data sets. And so the point I wanted to bring out is that the power view that represented the presentation layer was one screen size, looked like PowerPoint slide. So I kind of understand why people might say you should prioritize having it one screen size. But then the question becomes whose screen? Because I've got a screen that is giant that if this screen I have in front of me, right, the things I can fit in it, if you try to fit it in a regular laptop screen, I don't see that happening. You won't see what's on it. So there are all kinds of screen sizes. So I never try to bring that in the definition that you should make it one screen size, but I also let people know there's a value in people saying that they only want screen size, because again, I've had projects where they wanted the dashboard to be on a monitor that was being hung somewhere that everybody can see in a particular department's working area. So it means there's nobody there is going to be scrolling up and down, left and right. So, in that case, I needed it to be one screen size. So I'll say you're all right. And for the three key things I want you to take away from dashboard is you are using them to support decision makers, and then visual, and there is a lot more tilting towards the kind of questions you want to answer, insights you want to surface on. Whereas reports are just well-formatted presentations of data, and are usually the outcome of some data analysis. So you've got some data and you're doing analysis on them. The analysis could be, it's in fact, to be sincere, I say dashboard is a type of report, because dashboard is essentially a report, but just more targeted. Whereas report is any summary presentation you make out of data. Sometimes you might not even do too much summarization, and you just present the data in a well-formatted way, and it still falls as a report. So I'm just bringing that out, that if you find yourself in the business environment dealing with business decision makers, you want to have that in mind. Even when what they say is report, you want to have in mind that, okay, you have to categorize this as something where you need to care about the visual presentation, the insight, and focus more on helping them to see what's important to them, rather than trying to put all the asset, the KPIs you can grab from them. Okay, so that's clear. This is also looking at my time, and these are what I call the definitive characteristics of a dashboard. Visually engaging, easy to read and understand, actionable insights, interactive. And if you're doing it within Excel, you want to make it have its own dedicated sheet. You don't want to mix it with something else on that sheet. And yes, I will say try to reduce as much of scrolling the users will need to do. And most importantly, this is where Microsoft Excel, M365 Excel becomes a huge help if you're using it, is that you want it to be automated, the entire process, such that I can hit refresh, and it's going to pull in the new data. All of the transformations will repeat themselves without me having to manually intervene. And in fact, as Celia will tell people who feel like, oh, Excel cannot auto refresh, there is a setting where you can tell Excel the moment you open the file that it should refresh. I think you can even time it too. All right, so let's move on through the talking part, and we'll do some demo. The common dashboards that I've seen in, I say large organizations, but the truth is, I think any organization that is serious about making use of their data, and they've got different departments, they will fall in this same category. So there's these CXOs, the management officers, and most companies will have a distinct finance department, operations department. They will have a distinct human resources, sales, marketing, IT. And what will happen is all of them will need to, if you work for those kinds of companies, you might not need to do reports across all of them. But the truth is, you need to understand that there are dashboards that need to support the surfacing of the insights that are in all of those different functional part of the company. So this one is just to make it easy for people who are new to the field to understand that, yes, when you're doing dashboards in organizations, sometimes they are strategically supporting this functional side, these functional departments in your company. The importance of connecting to, so this one I won't say too much, I will do some demos too. There are different ways to bring your data into Excel. And if you talk about Excel 10 years ago, most people will just default to copying and pasting the data, download the data somewhere, copy and paste, or import the flat file, the exported data. So as much as possible, you shouldn't be doing, for dashboards, you shouldn't be doing number one. Number two is even, I wouldn't recommend number two, because flat files mean that it's an export most likely, except if you have some data pipelines running that are accumulating the data, that are creating the flat file automatically and not someone exporting. But the last three, those are the ones I always want you to think of. So whenever there's a project that involves dashboards, and I've explained what you begin to classify as dashboards, support business decision makers, surface insights that they want to see. So it has to have that currency, easily updated. Then you want to take the last three approaches: databases, directly to the database, direct to the data source. So I explained in the book that we created different scenarios, and I explained why you should want to connect to the data sources. The summary of it is that if you connect to the data sources directly, then what you've built becomes a solution, becomes something that you build it once and it keeps running. Okay. And that is the value that people are looking for in a dashboard over static reports. So I'm going to do some demo here. I have the demo file prepared to just show you how Excel allows you to connect beyond just copy and pasting and importing flat files. Okay. Any questions so far? I'm watching the chat, but if you've got questions.
No, I think everybody's just listening very closely.
Okay. All right. That's good to hear. All right. So I'm not going to demonstrate copy and paste it because obviously we all know how to do that, right? I'm going to start with the load data from flat files. And again, like I said, some of what I'm saying are things you already know, but like I told you, the background of the way I've always been training is to start, make no assumptions. So from a flat file, I have a flat file that is a CSV file that I'm going to demo with. So I've prepared it somewhere. Now this file, there's something interesting about this file. I know most of people who are joining this session are already people who are understand that Excel can open more than 1 million, 1 million X rows. I wanted to call the full 1,057,576. But I'm not going to repeat that. This has more than 2 million. And what I want to point out is not that Excel can open more than 1 million. Now, I just want to show us that I can decide to bring in this data as a flat file, import it directly as a file, pointing to the file. If I go to transform data, you see the Power Query view. Okay. And this is what I just want to point out, that yes, this has been in Excel, but now once you do that in Microsoft Excel 365, it brings up the Power Query editor. If you are using the version that's not Power Query ready, this is not the view you get. You get the view of like a delimiter, and it's telling you to show where the delimiters are, and you get that thing that is very similar to when you do text to columns. Okay, so I'm going to close this because that's all I want to show for this. I don't intend to load it because it might take time to load. So I'm going to just close and move to the next one, discard. So what about loading this from the web? And I've got that. Let me, great. I know I've saved it here. So I've got this on the web, it's not a file sitting on my local hard disk. So I want to show you how but it's the same file, the same data that I just tried to load from my local in this sheet where I demoed that. So I'm going to go to from web. Sometimes, just in case they keep moving some of these options, but I think permanently to be from web. But just in case you're using a version where you're not seeing it here, you will see it in from other sources, right? So from web, and I paste in that URL, and it's going to do very similar to the experience you saw with when I loaded it directly from a local file. Okay, so I'm going to close this. I just wanted to show that. So we're beginning to go to the depends gradually. And from web has also always been in Excel, but I mean from a URL that is not that is a web page. But now, again, it triggers Power Query, which means you have the full feature of Power Query when you bring in data even from a web page. Okay, so this one has got let me show you. It's got population by countries, and you see it's well formatted. You can do what typically you do on Power Query on these two. Okay. So I'm going to move to the next one. So discard this. Don't you mind because my camera is blocking part of my screen. So what about from DB? This is the part I've even seen people who are really good with Excel not think about it. So there's data in the DB, you know, and they keep thinking about, okay, how do I get someone to export it out? And what I'm setting here as a habit you should start having is, even when someone gives you an export of it, the exported data, you should ask that, well, what's the original source? You should connect to the primary source. And a lot of times in organizations now, the primary source are seated, they are in a DB. It could be a cloud DB, it could be an on-premise DB. So I'm going to demonstrate how very easy it is to connect also to DB. So I'm going to connect to a SQL Server DB. I'm going to connect to one that I have set up on my own device here. And once I put the server address, it loads. If not because I ran into issue with my Azure SQL DB, I could have also demonstrated that, but I think one time a lot of people were trying to eat it, and I decided, let me just use my local DB for demonstrations these days. So I'm going to still come back to this approach because the demo I have to take us through 3 different dashboards, they are all from the DB anyway, from an extract of the DB, but I intend to let you see that it's the DB that you'll be connecting to if you are building a report for the demo company that I have prepared. Okay, so you pick on any of the tables, you see a preview, and I don't know if any questions for now. Just pick a sales table, sales transaction table, see, sales, let's say sales header, sales order header. Okay, and what this will do is it loads up the preview of the data, and maybe for this one I will close and load. This will be an opportunity to show you the options you get with close and load, because I think I also mentioned that. So you get the option to load as a table. You get to load as something that becomes a source to a pivot table. You get to load as something that creates a pivot table layer. Create layer. Yeah, that's correct. And then also a pivot chart. So as you begin to interact with the controls, with the field controls, you see pivot chart. And then only create connection. So if you do only create connection, most times it makes no sense if you do this without adding to data model. So the reason why you will typically do this only create a connection is one of 2 reasons anyway. You want to do a lot more on the data model side. The data model side primarily for us is the Power Pivot, because even when I click on Manage Data Model, Power Pivot pops up. So I'll maybe talk a bit about the Power Pivot view. But I'm just saying that if you intend to directly take your data into a model and do relationships, what do I mean by relationships? Let me give you what that would be on the slide. I'm still going to come to this slide, but see what we don't commonly see with Excel. I noticed that people always feel like these are things you will see on some expensive BI tool, on Power BI. But this is Excel. This is Excel itself, and this has been there for a while, but a lot of people still are used to the habit of doing lookups to join tables together, create multiple sheets, helper sheets to achieve some data interactivity from different sources of data. So right now we can do all these sophisticated models. Let me put it that way, within Excel, okay? And that is what you achieve from the data model side. So if I add this to the data model, what will happen is I see these queries and it's loaded, but I'm not going to see anything on my Excel sheet view. I will have to go to Manage Data Model, and then I will see the data, and that is the Power Pivot view. Okay, so in the Power Pivot view, all the reading you've been doing about DAX, you're able to apply all those learnings. Yeah. Okay. So you can begin to see that the sophisticated reports people are looking to build in Power BI, the tools they used to build them, these are the very same tools. The Power Query that we've just seen, the Power Pivot that is the equivalent of the Power BI actual desktop model view, and charts, which I'm not going to talk too much about charts today, but charts has always been in Excel and sliders and all of that. So I'm going to close this, okay, and see what I have next. You can also connect to sources that are not really, you can't classify as the database flat file. So I call them, I wanted to say maybe connect to cloud apps. Okay, I think that's what I called it in my slide. Let's go back to my slide. Yeah, connect to cloud platforms. An interesting thing is 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there used to be a lot more. I think maybe because of maybe some policies at Microsoft, and they took out a lot. They took out Facebook. Facebook used to be here. I used to use Excel to track our Facebook performance. You could track your Facebook page performance, and then when we do giveaways where we do random, you post something on Facebook and say, based on comments or something, like you ask a question and you're going to pick a lucky winner. It was a lot easier to use this Excel Facebook connector then, but it's gone now. I think it was the Cambridge Analytical fiasco that make them take out Facebook from here. I can't remember on what I read about the reason anyway. But the point I want to bring out is there used to be a lot more. We could connect to QuickBooks, I think, and some other things. I'm hoping Microsoft will bring them back. But the point I want to make here is that there's a lot of other things you can connect to, and I'm going to demonstrate connecting to my Exchange account. So if I type my email address, and this has some usefulness in itself, the fact that if you used to get some system logs in email, you used to get some emails that have there's a pattern to extracting data from them. It could be attachments, it could be even your calendar. I'm even talking about email, but you could everything that sits on your Exchange, calendar, mails, meeting requests, people, tasks, you can pull them into Excel. You can pull them, and so for me, you can see the mails. I'm not going to show too much because I don't know which mails might be have some confidential data, but at least you can see that I can see the subject, I can see the sender, I uh can see a lot of things that I can begin to create some meaningful tracking around. Most of the time, probably you want to track some things and make them surface. You don't have to go hunt for information. So that's another thing. If you have questions, let me know as I go on. Okay. So I see a question from Pietro. For dashboards, why would you still use Excel if using Power BI online makes it easier to share and distribute? I've got like 5 points for you, but I want to hear from Celia. You're probably more qualified to give me to give a. You don't want to try it, okay? Anyone wants to? Okay, go on.
Yeah, I can try, but you are the expert here. I would say, well, for one, not all companies feel comfortable with Power BI. Publishing reports require a subscription, and some companies are not up to pay the price. Those are two. It requires a little bit more of skills, although, like you said, they are transferable. The skills we are talking about here in Excel, they all transfer into Power BI. Those are the reasons from the top of my head. What else?
Thanks. So yes, I'll summarize what you've said as there's the cost factor because Power BI is not free, and if you have Excel already, sometimes for companies that's an easy decision. They're like, we already have this. Then if it can do what we want, why should I pay more money to use something else? So there's that cost consideration. Then secondly, right, just put yourself in a leadership position. You're already getting reports. You're already used to, your Excel reports, and you do a lot with them. You're not just passively consuming them. You get the reports. They become inputs for you to do other things, especially if you control budget and you make plans, and you've been getting Excel reports. You might not want to make a leap, transferring all those reports, making them migrated to Power BI in one go, because you will lose your own input to your own insight. And so I've seen that play out a lot with senior management and even middle managers, where they just want, the problem is not that the report is in Excel. The problem they are facing is just that they want a dashboard, a report that is, they can hit refresh and it refreshes, a report that is visually engaging, is interactive, all those things that you will do if you are doing, a dashboard in modern Excel now. So those are what they want. That's the scope of what they want. Now you selling them Power BI, you are trying to just sell them something fancy, something new, but not that it can do what, like what it will do is not what they want. Excel can do it, and it's not like the Power BI can do it in quotes better than what they are happy with. So that's another, the fact that there's always a context. Then the third is what they are familiar with, because again, these are all tools. You can tell me that I should always use a tractor. Another person can say he uses a spade. And if you begin to think about it, you always be like, a tractor is better than a spade, than a shovel, than. But then if all I'm doing is clearing the snow in front of my house, then why do I need a tractor? So you'll find out that there's also some people who they don't need Power BI. It's too much of a headache for them. There's too much of a stress for what they are trying to achieve. So if I am a solopreneur and I sell on, maybe on Shopify, on Amazon, and I just need something to manage all of my. That's why those people love this new tool in Excel, this image tool, where you can put the link to an image and it renders as an image within the cell. For them, Excel is perfect for what they want. They don't want to. They already have their products in Excel, their invoices in Excel. They've got a lot of all the things they're already using in Excel, even the customers, the invoice, and no one is afraid of Excel. I like what Ishmael too is saying. So it's never that. Don't always think of it like a Porsche versus I don't know, Kia or Toyota. It's always factor who is asking for it, who is needing in the context. Sometimes make it that you don't want the one that looks, kind of technically superior if you are looking just on specifications. So thanks for that question. I'm going to move on. I'm just checking that I'm not skipping any other question. All right, so let's see yeah, so I've got one more here in this part, which is, imagine you've got an image. You've not seen it. So Kathy says you've not seen the people I deal with. So does that mean there are some people are afraid of Excel? Then Power BI, I don't know. They are probably only going to want to consume Power BI and not have to be part of the people developing it. So I'm just careful not to go on search and type something that brings up an image that we're not comfortable with. So imagine I've got an image somewhere, grab the image online from somewhere, I could even screenshot it from a report in PowerPoint, and I want to take it into Excel, but not as a static image, right? So let's try that approach. So I'm going to just copy this image, or let me see if I can just also search online. I might just look for something. I have two screens, so I can search somewhere. So I can search, maybe, I know in UK, there's a football, it's the football season anyway. So typing some things to get me data. Okay, I'll just type what I know I've searched before. So I'm going to bring these over to the shared screen, and then we'll go to images. So if I see an image that I want to just take the data, something like this, but it's an image, right? I want to take the data and I want it to be not static. I want it to be, the data in tabular form within Excel. I can do that. I've copied it already. The interesting thing is I don't even need to paste it. I go to from picture, from clipboard, and it's going to begin to try to do that. You can review what it's done. Because of time, I'm not going to review it. I'm just going to tell it to insert the data. It's warning me that am I sure I want to go ahead, it's on me if there's any inaccuracy in it. So yes, and you see how quickly that is. I in 2013, there was a job I got that it was doing this. They've got this PDF, but those PDFs they are not text, they are image PDFs. So they got, I can't remember, just to say something, say maybe they got like 50 pages, but they were table and they were neat, clean. They were not looking, it's not those ones that, it's just that it's saved as an image. The PDF was generated from maybe scan, but they were really clean, clear images, right? And the person was going to pay someone to do it, to take it into Excel for them. And that was the job. I can't remember if I got it, but they were going to pay, and it wasn't a small amount. So these days you can just copy and paste, and in fact you can import from PDF. So maybe this will have fixed it too. But I'm just letting you know that there are a lot of valuable tools that sometimes it's until you face those situations that you become glad that Excel has got this ability to extract data from PDF, from images. So that's the end of my show and what I've intended to show for this part. So I'm going to go to Power Query. Okay. So in the book, I tried to explain what Power Query is, so that I can connect to over 100 data sources, transform, and then I did some. I'm going to pull up a few and walk us through them so that you see how to me, I think everything you do with Power Query in Power BI, you can do in Excel. And if you read all these reports, they say Power BI is is the leading self-service BI tool. Like the self-service BI tool that's got the fullest feature, there's this Gartner report, and they say it's in that quadrant where it's got almost all the features every other one has, and it's very robust. Like they are forward thinking. They've got all the kind of things people want. So let me pull up some samples that I have prepared.
Michael, when you're ready, we've got some questions.
Okay, great.
When you're ready.
All right, I'm trying to fish these manage sales relationships. Was in March. Okay, I've got one already. Let me open that. And I want to show two. I don't want to show just one. Okay, so these two are good. So before I go on, let me take on the questions.
Oh, so the question is from I'm going to really mess up the name. Oyemi.
Yeah,
is
you tried.
asking.
You got it right. Sort of.
I did?
Like not
Oh
too
my
different.
gosh.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
guess. In one of my learnings, I found out that I can't use some chart types like tree map, for example, when using pivot tables, unless I convert it to OLAP tools, which I feel is a constraint. Is this still correct, or is there a new development?
Sadly, you're still correct.
It's still correct.
Yes.
And then the next person said, could group by and pivot by solve that problem for them?
I like the thinking. Yeah. So if all you were doing with the pivot table was like a group by and pivot by sort of things, then sure, yes, but if you have slicers in it, then it might become a bit more of some, might need to do a bit more work. Maybe you mix it as a table and try to connect the slicers. But yes, if all of what you're doing with the pivot table are simply just grouping, like using the row, column, and values part, then for sure group by and pivot by fixes it, and you'll be able to put all of those. So let me just explain it to people in case some people are even like, what are we even talking about? So let me see if this is a good data to use. Unfortunately, there is no text data on this, but we will try. We'll try to use it. I'll just maybe use this ID as person, right? So say I put these on inside a pivot table on this. I'm going to put it right within here. Great. So I want to use one of the tree maps. So to make this really stand out, I'm going to concatenate as in then okay, so that way when I put a tree map, it's gonna look distinct. It's not gonna look really like it's just numbers. Okay, so I put this here, and let's say they are basic salary and values. Okay, and I'm going to limit this to just a few people so that we don't have okay, this is good enough for the demonstration. So if I inside a chart on this, let's say I take out the ground total. So if I inside a chart on this, right? As usual, I get to see all the chart types. Okay, this is also, I think this is in chapter, I've got a chapter that I talked about all the 19 chart types in Excel, but it's not limited to Microsoft 365. It started from 2016. In Excel 2016, there were 16 chart types. Then they added 2 more. I can't remember exactly which one the 2 more fell into, maybe 2019. I think maybe 2019. So they added, like, was it funnel and waterfall? But the point is that the new charts, there used to be 11, column line, but the 11th used to stop here. So what this original 11, let me call them that, you can add them on pivot table data, right? But the moment you go to options below that, let's go back here. So when I pick any of these other ones, Control 2, okay. There is something I used to annotate my screen, is not coming up. So you see what it says. This chart type, you can't create this chart type with data inside a pivot table. Please select a different chart type. And I'm going to keep getting all of that for all of these options. So it's except this one. This one is not. This was a combination of other types of chart. So it's a problem, like you said, it's still there. And like someone has suggested that what if you use the group by formulas, the pivot by and all of those amazing formulas. So that's one of the advantages of M365. The fact that you get multiple ways of doing the same thing and you can always bypass some limitations. And in fact, you won't have to hit refresh for you to trigger a refresh when you change values, okay? So I totally agree with Baljit. Thank you. And let's see, map does not work with pivot. Yes, sure. Map also does. It's one of the new chart types. That will have helped me to use MLB data of the web. I don't know what MLB is. Is it like multi-listing? That one is MLS. Okay, but well, at least I'm happy you're seeing a scenario where those starting from chart, from web, from picture, from web helps. Waiting, waiting for my book that I bought online 10 days ago. Oh, okay, Ishmael, thanks. The funny thing is, I'm also still waiting for the book too. But in my case, it seems the the courier company, they made a mistake, or I don't know, they said they've delivered it, but they've not. So let me go back to the slide. I was intending to show us some examples of interesting uses of pivot Power Query in this case. We're on chapter 4. So merge employees with merge employees data in, so let's see. Done. Me. I hope I'm not opening the solution file. Okay, so this is the wrong one. All right, so let's do this one. Okay, so this is one interesting case. I've seen people go all, sophisticated, looking for Python scripts, trying to use R, trying to use some sophisticated way to achieve this, where, see what is here. You've got people's names, and naturally you want to make, like, you've got an information about them that you want to combine with information here. Because if I've got the days you've worked, the hours, these are hours, the hours you've worked, and I've got your rate. If I want to compute something like your pay, then it's just to multiply your rate with the pay. Let me just write it this way. Okay. It's to do the equivalent of like a VLOOKUP or some kind of lookup, not to waste time. The issue is that if I try to look up if I try to do this is equal to yeah, it's equal to, what should we use? Let's use XLOOKUP. Look for these, right? And I'm going to fix I want it to be able to go across the row, but not across the column. So I'm going to freeze the column part. And then I say, okay, look for it where, let me just be a bit lazy and fix all of, look for it here, get me the hourly rate, and I'm going to ignore the other optional part. Then multiply by the same XLOOKUP, look for this same person, same mixed references. And yeah, so here now, here, and get me for week 1. So for this, I want it to go across the columns, but not across the rows. Okay. Right. So ordinarily, this is the tedious Excel way of doing this via formula. But you'll see that I'm getting a lot of NAs, and if we look closely, you will see that there's some spelling differences. So Adedeji is correctly spelled here, but it's not. It's missing his middle initial here. So I've had cases like this, spelling errors that are not too, like, even if you want to manually fix some, you don't want to fix for all of them. There's some logic you could have used to fix for maybe like 90%, and in fact, maybe 95%, and just manually review 5%. And so how can we handle this in Power Query? So we've got this merge that allows for fuzzy match. So we're going to try it. I'm going to just select this, go to data and say from table or range. Okay, yes, use the first row as headers. Yes, that's good. Okay, so I've brought in I'm going to call this the hourly rates table, or the rates table. Okay, this is another interesting thing I pointed out in the book, that I want to transform these alongside another one, but if you try to come back here, my Excel screen looks locked. I can't interact with the Excel screen anymore while this Power Query is open. So what I will do is what I talked about, the other time, that I'm going to put it to connection, right? But I also told you that if you want to leverage Power Query, Power Pivot, you need to also enable add to the data model. So I'm going to pick those two. The difference is that if I didn't change this and I let the default, this is the default. This is the default that happens. It's going to create a new sheet and it's going to put this same data again there. So that's not what I want. I already have the data here. So in my case, I just needed to have a connection, maybe add to data model so I can access it in the data model. And then I'll do okay. So that way it doesn't, I'm able to get out of Power Query and I'm able to now bring in these. And I'm going to do the same approach of, from table or range. And then now I will see the two tables. This will be the hours worked timesheet. So now, if I want to bring in there are multiple ways, but let's say I want to bring in the rates here. Since here we always have the weekly data, and maybe here has the static data, I just want to bring the rate in here. Okay, I can do that. I can go here to merge queries. If I want to leave the hours worked intact, I can, but I don't want to leave it intact. So I'll just not leaving it intact and having this as a separate table will be merge queries as new. In this case, I'm going to tell it that, oh, I see MLB means Major League Baseball. That's how you know people who are new to North America. Like I'm not so new, used to baseball. So I will have said maybe basketball if I was to guess something along the sports line. So I'm going to say merge queries, and I'm going to say I want to merge it with the rate table. And it will ask me, okay, so which are the columns to use for the merging? And as you can see, it can only merge 5 out of 10 rows. Why? Because of those spelling inconsistency. And what do I have as the magic option to fix it? Use fuzzy matching. Now it matches 10 out of 10, right? And if you want to have more control over the settings, you can, let me see if I can expand this. Well, I've expanded it, but I still have to scroll. So I won't scroll too far. By default, I think it does 70 or 80. Okay, it does 80%. So similarity threshold is 0.80, 0.8. You can change it if you want it to be more loose in deciding what matches what. You can reduce the similarity to maybe 70%, 0.7. So I'm going to leave it as 80 because that didn't change. I'm just showing you the options you have. Do you want it to be case sensitive or not? Do you want it to attempt to match by combining parts? So there are options that if you are trying to do this programmatically, I tell you, this is not one line of code in Python. You're going to, as a beginner, you would maybe do a lot of surgery, cutting codes from different forums to merge together to achieve the final thing. But this is just a button click in the Power Query, right? So I'm going to click OK, and you will see that I now have I'm just going to bring you the hourly rate. But just in case, just so that you see that it correctly matches the name. So maybe I'll leave the entire columns, but ordinarily, if I don't have any doubts, I'm going to just bring in the hourly rate. But let's just see. So you see it's correctly noticed that Adidej is this same person here, even though one part does not have the middle name initial. So that's clear. Any questions you can ask me. I want to move on to other things I have on the demo. But I'm just pointing out that these are all the goodies that we enjoy out of the box in M365. And these are the things that make it possible for you to do something once, because now you see what I've done. I didn't do a formula and drag down. What I did is I picked the table. So if this table is coming from an external source and it's always growing, then this thing I've done will keep working. If there are just 10 records now, if by next week they become 20, my process also factors in, those additional records. It's not going to break and, stop at 10, and I will have to manually drag it down to treat for the additional 10 records. So, okay, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them before I move to another. So that's this part. I try to pick the one I just showed you is on merging data. So I have for merging data, I had like 3 examples, multiple sources, this fuzzy one I showed. Then appending is easy, so I decided to show us the merging. And then there are some common data transformations. You've got dates you want to extract out the end of day, the month end, start month, day of the week, all of those extraction, they are really sweet doing them in Power Query. Let me see if I can demonstrate one of them. Let's see if I have a table that's got dates in it. Yeah, this is an example to use for that. So I'm going to grab this from table or range. Here, I tell people that Power Query can make you lazy. That definitive guide on M, right? You will find out that what you read, all the advanced things you read, right? You have to deliberately sometimes force yourself to implement them because sometimes you will be so lazy clicking on the controls that you're like, no, I think I'll just click rather than practice what I've learned. But anyway, the good thing about books is you can always reference. So if you read it once and you're not practicing for the next 3 months, and there's a case where all these men on the screen cannot help you, that's why it's called a Bible. You can just reference that particular page. But the point I want to bring out is that a lot of things that we use convoluted formulas or is not a one-step approach in the native Excel window, right? They are achievable here like really easily. Let's start with a text column, right? So for text columns, you go here and then you see all the things you can do with, let's go. Anyway, I will show you one trick. Great. If you right click, you will see a lot of things. But when it comes to transformation that will maybe generate a new column, you will find most of that in add column. For the ones that will sit in place, yes, you can get many of them from just right clicking. Okay, so I just want to point out maybe some that are useful for text. Then I'll point out the date one. I think you will find the date interesting. So let's start with the ones that are useful for text. So if I go to transform, right, and let's move here. You see this format. Do I want to turn everything lowercase, uppercase, capitalize each word, sentence case? So that's the one we don't have a formula for in Excel. You don't have a capitalize each word. Trim, clean. This is the formula in Excel. This is another formula, but now you can pick, add a prefix, add a suffix. Okay, so you can extract first characters, last characters, range, text. So they've got all these things that you probably would need to do, not one formula to achieve, or you have to mix a lot of arguments in a formula to achieve. And the date one, this is the one that it's really amazing. Date and time. I can generate age out of a date. I've seen HR people, try to. I've seen a case where there was a training I had 6 years for a class, and one of them works in HR, but in a university setting in admin side, and so they needed to send letters to the professors 1 year before their retirement, 6 months before their retirement, and I think maybe another set of days before their retirement. And when you have professors that are maybe in the hundreds, so it's very easy for you to lose track if you are not using some dashboard approach to automatically keep track. So one of it was converting their date of birth to age. And the thing with date of birth and age, you can't just say the year minus, this year minus last, the year of their age. Why? Because date, the age is not just about the year, it's also about the particular day and month, right? So this takes care of that. You don't have to do some formulas that's going to look at the day, the month, and the year. And then sometimes we try to use frac, date frac. So then you see all these other ones. I'm just pointing out that things that we always would have taken a not so simple way to achieve within Excel, you can, because of that, bring your data into Power Query and extract all of that: day of the week, end of the month, start of the month, name of the month, So all of these, and let me click on one of them. Let's even do the age. And you will see to generate an additional column. I hope I'm doing it on that hard column. Okay, I did it in the wrong place. I'm going to undo that step. Okay, so I'm going to get it out as an additional column. Okay, and it's not going to be time, it's going to be whole number. Something is amiss. Okay, I'm just going to ignore that so that I don't take too much time. I'll use another one. I'll use end of the month, add column, get the end of the month. Something is acting really weird.
Could it be because the start date is formatted as date time? Yeah, now it's date. Okay, so now it
So
should work.
I'm going to try it again then. Let's try. So format it as date. Replace current. Yes. Let's do that again. Correct. Yeah. So even the age would have worked if I had just fixed the formatting. Okay. So I'm going to move now to another thing, and then I think I will do that in 5 minutes. And questions, I will take your questions. So let me move back to this slide. Okay, I need to close this. This is locking my screen. It's not letting the slide to show. Slide is showing underneath. So that's the Power Query. I think it's something you should get comfortable using. Like I tell people that if you find yourself not using Power Query a lot and you do reports in Excel, you need to have a rethink. You need to do a sticky note and write on it, can Power Query do this? And stick it on your monitor so that you see it anytime you're doing stuff in Excel. You can always ask yourself, is there any part of it that you could have done in Power Query? Why? Anything you take to Power Query, it becomes like a proper, integration pipeline and transformation. It makes automation. It's more like you do it once and it repeats itself when you refresh the data. That's the whole concept around Power Query. So this is the part where the dashboard demo, I will show you how all of this that I've shown is just the power pivot that I have not talked about. But at least you will see how I've put together all of what I've said to take what most people would think is not really, they don't think of it as, if they wanted to do it, they don't think of Excel as as the tool they will have done that type of thing with. So I'll show you how Excel is no longer what it used to be. So here is a sales dashboard, right? And now, if I right click, you see I don't have hidden sheets. When people send you dashboards that were built 5, 7, 10 years ago, when you right click here, you will see hidden sheets. You will see formulas that are linking to calc sheets, that are linking to some, helper sheets. How am I able to achieve this without, just having one sheet? And that's where all of my dashboard is reflecting. It's because I have applied, all the goodness of Microsoft 365 Excel to achieve this. So let's dig underneath. First of all, is all of what you are seeing is a pivot table. So this is a pivot table, right? So you see, and then this is a slicer. No, this is it's a timeline slicer. This is a regular slicer, okay? And this is a shape. So you can use shapes. You're not just limited to the sheet cells, and all of these changes. Once I pick a particular thing, they all change. It's dynamic, right? So now that you've seen on the surface, can we look underneath? So I'm going to just close this, remove the filter here. Underneath means we go to the data model, because what I've done is I've used the data model, which means I have used Power Query and Power Pivot. Okay, so Power Pivot is directly feeding the as you can see, the pivot table that I just showed you on the Excel screen. So what is interesting is I have multiple tables: sales customer table, different tables, and I'm not doing VLOOKUP. I'm not doing XLOOKUP. I am creating a proper relationship. Okay, and this is Excel. This is not SQL. This is not Power BI. I'm creating a proper relationship amongst them all. And then I am, in addition, where I need to do some calculation, the calculation that is powering these cards, let's call them cards, right? I have them as DAX calculation, they're dynamic, right? So I am leveraging Power Pivot and also the ability to create a proper data model. And now, where's the data coming from? So let's close this and go to the Power Query side to see where the source of the data. So I have different tables. I'm going to cheat slightly. So I'm going to tell you that the data is coming from here. It's coming from SQL. I try to open all the screens I need to use before the webinar. Yeah. Okay, finally, this is it. So I'll tell you that this is where the data is coming from, a SQL DB. And that's what we do with BI tools, right? We're connecting them to the DBs, to all these enterprise tools, and pulling the data directly and doing transformation. And this is now possible with Excel. So any questions? And I'm going to ask a question to help us pick the winners. I think I can pick one winner already by just looking at the chat. The person who has maybe posted in the chat the most as of now will be one winner already. Then I have two other just to bring up to just show you that, So for me now, this is a not so serious illustration of a supply chain, but at least it shows the concept of you connecting to an ERP type of data, a data that is got product categories, subcategories, dimension table, fact table. It's got all those things that we are used to seeing. It's got even slowly changing dimension tables, and I'm able to create, the type of anything you want that you can sketch or tell me, I can add here. Why? Because I have the ability to do all those sophisticated modeling. Okay. Looking at the questions, this link doesn't work for me. I don't know what link that is. Okay, how to calculate H in years and
Question is, there was a question from Ismail.
Okay.
In this SQL link is the free connection. Not quite. I think when you were connecting to a SQL database, he was asking, is it free, a free connection?
Yeah, it's free, but it's my own DB. It's my DB on my laptop or on my desktop. So you see. But yes, I can also connect to an Azure hosted DB. So if I connect to this, I've got also things. It's just that I try not to use that for demo because Azure is no longer nice with billing. They readily bill you if you make a mistake. So, and with that happened where I spinned off a colleague spinned off a new DB and were being built for a DB that we are not using. But yes, it works, It works for all the common DB types. I don't know if you remember when I was showing us the different options on that DB. I know I use this, but you can also connect to Access DB analysis services, SQL Server analysis services again, Oracle DB, IBM, MySQL, Postgres, Sybase, Teradata, SAP. So to me, I think all the major DBs companies use, they are here already, And if there are ones that you use that are not in this list, there's always ODBC. ODBC is a way to connect to any fairly popular DB, any DB that is being used by companies. The DB manufacturer will always have some ODBC connector because that's the way to always factor in other tools that might not have a native connector to their own DB. Okay. For whatsoever budget is Aurora, for whatever reason, can reply to me. So, okay, great. Any questions from anyone? I think I am now at the nick of
Can I just ask
time.
something? I think that Ismail was his question about being free was about AdventureWorks database being free.
Oh, that is free. I can show you how to even do that yourself. So if you go online and you type AdventureWorks database, just type it that way. Microsoft is luckily the particular link that provides that is one of the first you will see. So you will see this web page, and then you've got different versions. So you've got the OLTP. This is the one you will typically want to use. Then you've got the data warehouse one, and this one is just a lightweight version of this one. So this is the one I used. I have in this environment I just showed you, and for me, I find it to be rich. What do I mean by rich? Uh, if you interact with corporate folks, people who once you show them something, their next question is always how to apply it to their work. Then you'll find out that a lot of the scenarios they are trying to paint, you can create those scenarios out of these data sets. If someone is saying, "Oh, I work in HR, I've got this situation," I'll just say, "Oh, nice, let's use this dummy data. I don't have to start creating things from scratch. I've got the human resource kind of data sets, things that relate to entities that are human, like staff or leads and all of that. Production related, supply chains, purchasing, sales. I think those are it. So I will say, if you want to create even tutorials, create demos that can be relatable to business folks, this is a very good. It can be a kind of some tough learning to understand all the different tables and the data definition and even the DB schema. You might need to go online to check. The copy that is easily found is the 2008 schema, that diagram you will usually find, but it has not changed, this one. But it has not changed since then. Okay, it's even 2012. I thought it was 2008. Okay, it's 2000 and yeah, it's 2008. Yeah, I'm still correct. So it's very detailed. I like it. There's some slight differences, but it's mostly the same. So I use this a lot for demos, and if I'm trying to teach people something and I don't want to start creating data that they can relate to, because most of my audience, there are people who are trying to use this skill at work. Then this is more natural, and then I won't be facing the situation where someone says MLB and I don't understand, and then maybe I'm saying my own too and they don't understand, and then that becomes the barrier at first. Like, okay, I don't know what all of these are about. Okay, any questions from anyone else?
We've got Kathy asking, do you have enterprise version of 365? Because I don't have my SQL connector anymore in her version.
Okay, there can be two answers, but there can be two reasons. But first of all, yes, I've got the enterprise version, but I don't think that's the reason. I want to believe that that's not the reason. Okay, so it could be that if you look at the version number, it could just be that your version is way behind mine, and it might just be something that is easy to fix with an update. Like if you say update, though actually I'm on beta version, but the one that is not beta version that is most recent is 2403. So if you look at yours and it's older than 2403, I would say maybe you should try to trigger, update, tell it to update now, and maybe that will fix it.
Okay, and then Aurora put in a link to the SQL Server download from Microsoft if anybody was looking for it. What is Amelia asks, what is the best way to share a dashboard with a team? Email, OverDrive, or do we have a power user license like Power BI?
So now those are the parts where now you're bringing out the limitations in Excel. That's the tricky part. That sharing is always the tricky part. Like my wife, where she worked, she's done this fancy dashboard that everybody's happy with. Then it now became a question of collaboration. Should we put it on OneDrive, and then everybody accesses it? So that seems to be like maybe the bigger the first choice in terms of options. Maybe you want to make sure you use the approach that will not break when the file is in OneDrive, and that's the good thing right now. Power Query, Power Pivot, I believe now plays nicely with being on a network drive. Or have you experienced anything otherwise, Celia, with having an Excel dashboard or report that is heavily Power Query, Power Pivot driven and not working fine on OneDrive?
I haven't had the experience with sharing, having to share. No, so I cannot really.
Okay, great. So I'll say you can try, like for now, I think OneDrive is still like maybe the way to ensure that everyone is still connected to that one single source of truth as regards, rather than them duplicating and losing maybe connection to the data set and just having old data. So I'll say maybe for now, yes. And but we don't have the advanced sharing options that come with Power BI, and maybe that's why Power BI tries to price themselves, way above Excel, because they feel like, okay, that's one thing that if you really need the advanced capabilities, someone can see a particular category, cannot see another category, row level security stuff, then they are natively there in Power BI, but not easily to replicate here in Excel. Okay. So I want to pick one winner already. So for winner one, and then what I need for the winner will be just send your name and email to, how can they send it to you, Celia, or how can they give it so that I don't think it's proper to make them put it in the chat, right? Is there a way they can send it across to you and maybe?
What is it that you want to send me? Sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to nominate some winners out of the chat area, and what the publisher needs is their name and email.
Okay.
So how do you recommend that they will now provide that? Is it like they should email it to you?
They can send me a message on, so after you say their names, they can contact me through the Meetup app that allows us to send private messages.
Okay, as long as it's private message, they can share a private message with you. Okay, great.
So those three people that you choose, they can send me their email address and name. Is that what you need?
Yeah, that's what the publisher needs. So the publisher is packed, and the book is what we already showed you.
Can you share? Can you share again in your slide in case people want to get your book? And we also have the link. Let's see if I have. We can also share the link there if you don't have it.
Okay. This is the link. Let's see if I can copy it.
Let's see if that works.
Okay, great. Thanks. So, thanks. I've seen that you shared it. So, nominated winners should send their names, their name and email address via a private chat on the Meetup page, right?
Yeah, so on the Meetup app or the website for the MS Excel Toronto Meetup group, just go into the group page and then find my name there under the members or the organizers and send me a message there. That's what people need to do.
Okay. All right. So now that I've communicated that, so I'm going to just look through the chat and pick people. No explicit criteria, like it's a mixture of frequency and the amount of interaction, how helpful they've been. So I see one already, Baljit. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. So I'm going to just copy your name and put it in the chat as winner one. Winner one. Okay, so congratulations. And I'm going to look for one more person, then I'll ask a question, and whoever gets the question right will be the third winner. I'm looking through. What I'm doing is not objective because I'm not doing any mathematical way to come across it, but I'm just trying to also ensure that people who helped make the session interesting also get rewarded. So, okay, especially people who helped answer other people's questions and provide links. Maybe I'll let Celia pick one more person or Granny pick one more person. Then I will just ask a question to get the third winner. So the question to get the third winner, the first person to answer correctly will be the winner. Okay, so it's a trivial question. And the question is just to know who is paying attention. How many chapters does the book have?
Ah,
12.
Okay, so I'm going to thumbs up the first correct answer I see in the chat area. How do I thumbs up? I think I just better copy the person's name. I'm not able to thumbs up someone. So I see that Paul got it right. Was the first person to send the right answer. Yeah, so it's 12. So congratulations to you, Paul. And so that will be winner number 2 or winner number. Celia, have you picked who will be the other winner?
I'll let Grania pick because she was
Okay.
monitoring the questions and may have paid more attention to the names of the people.
Okay.
Grania, your call.
well, the one that gave me lots of likes. So how about that one?
Nice way to pick.
That was the Kathy Mills gave me lots of likes. So thanks, Kathy.
Okay, I've seen the person's name. I can copy
And
that
she also
too.
asked a couple of questions and made comments.
There.
Perfect. So you thoroughly deserve it. Okay, winner 3. So thank you very much. And I think I've gone beyond time. Apologies,
No
Celia.
worries.
Apologies.
There's no hard stop. We are just enjoying. So thank you, Michael, for making yourself available and explaining and preparing the content and all that. It was very interesting to look at dashboards from the perspective of under the hood, right? Under not the visual aspect that everyone associates with dashboards, but what we need to pay attention to when we are building these tools. So I hope it was helpful for people to consider the aspects that you mentioned. And there's a lot more. I went through Michael's book, and like he says, he did not make assumptions that people would know things. So he went through the functions in Excel that are most used for to create dashboards. He went through Power Query, through Power Pivot. So he covers everything that we may need to know when building a dashboard. And that's what makes this book so interesting for me, is because it's not so focused on the visual aspects when we tend to, like we might think it would be. It also covers all the charts, like Michael mentioned, but it looks at dashboards as a whole, from the development perspective and also from the business requirements perspective. So let's not create a dashboard just to have a dashboard. Let's make it meet the needs depending on the department that this dashboard will be serving. So great tool for us, this book. If you can support Michael and get a copy, would be awesome. And again, thank you, Michael, for having shared your knowledge with us, and congratulations on your book.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Grind, too.
It's lovely to have you. Really enjoyed it. And we've got a lot of people saying great session. Thank you. And
Thank
Victor
you.
Momo even stayed up till 1:15. So
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope I don't make you get late for work tomorrow.
Thank you everyone for joining
Oh, he's
us
still here,
for
he says.
Oh, thank
yeah,
you.
he's still, I think he's still there. Thank you
Yep, he
everyone
is.
for having joined us and for making the session interesting, asking questions and making comments. And if it was the first time you joined us, I hope you come back. We do the sessions, we run these sessions every month. Stay tuned. We will send after the session, we send an email after a couple of days, maybe over the weekend, where we send the link for the recording and any extra information that Michael may want to share with us. And so just stay tuned and pay attention to the announcements for the next few events. And I hope to see you back in the next sessions. Any other words, Grania and Michael?
Yep. It's a great session, and
That's it.
I'm ready for dinner.
Nice one. Same
Thank
here.
you,
Thank you,
everyone, for
everyone.
having
I'll try
joined
to
us.
share the slide. Celia, I'll send you the slide and
Great.
the demo files that I'm allowed to, because there are some that the publishers don't want me to share
Of
because
course.
it's tied to the book directly.
Yes.
But I will
Mhm.
share the
Yeah.
ones I can.
Okay,
Marvelous.
sounds
Thank
good.
you. It's been lovely to meet you.
Thank
And
you.
Thank
welcome
you,
Same
to
here.
living in
everyone.
Canada.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you, everyone. And
Good night.
Bye.
see you
Have a
soon. Have a
wonderful
good night. I'll stop the recording now. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.